Okay, so welcome back. In the previous lecture, we created a directory to hold our add-ons. We created a template for our project using the scaffolding command, and then we installed our application. We created a database for it, and so now we're ready to create our first model that we're going to use to manage our game. And so let's go to our development environment, and Odoo Models, to give us a basic context in how what they're used for, is Odoo Models contain the data and information related to your applications. And so, for example, there's a product template model that holds all of the information for product templates, and there's what they call a res.partner model that holds all of the customer data. And there's models for users, there's models for the company. So everything is stored inside these models, and we're going to learn a lot about them. So I don't want to go into a lot of syntax on what models are. You're going to see that yourself as we build up the game. So let's go ahead, and inside of our application template, you're going to see that they've provided under models here a models.py, and the .py means that this is a Python script, a Python file. So let's open it up, and you'll see that everything in here is pretty much commented out except this at the top here where it says from Odoo import models, files API. So these pound signs are comments. So I'm assuming that you might not know Python, and so this really is a course for beginners. Even if you don't know Python, you're going to hopefully be able to follow along with this and get enough understanding about how to build Odoo applications that you can actually then supplement your Python learning. So these are comments, and this is all commented out. So I'm going to go ahead and take out these comments, and when I delete this one all the way back, I'm going to hit tab to tab this over, and the same with this one. Let me just get rid of that, all that space. We're going to just get rid of all that space, and I'm going to use tab there. Now I'm just going to get rid of the rest of these for now, because we'll just build these up ourselves just like that. Okay, so you can see that it gives us this little thing here, and it's add hints for the function. We just ignore that. I think that PyCharm doesn't always give me the most useful help, especially when I'm developing in Odoo. So this is the very, very basic template for a model in Odoo. We have this from statement, from Odoo import. Now Odoo is a framework. So what this is it's referencing the Odoo framework, and we're pulling out of it the things we need. Like we need models, we need fields, and then right now we're not using the API. That's why it's gray. We could get rid of that, but I'll leave it. It doesn't hurt anything to have it. Now what this means is there's a whole collection of processes that we're pulling in, and don't concern yourself with all that syntax right now. We're just going to make the changes, and you're going to see how easy it is to build this up without having to understand all of the aspects of Odoo framework. You just have to know how to use it. So this is the name of our class, and we're making a game manager. And for our game manager in this lecture, we're just going to keep track of the cache of our game. So think about a business tycoon game. What's the most important element? Well, we're going to start simple: the money, the cash, and what the current day is of the game. And then we're just going to have a name for our game. So we're going to assume that we can have multiple games that we could go in and test and try, just like you would in any game that you build that has save slots, for example. So we're gonna have a name for our game, and that's right here. And I can actually, it's given to us as an example name. And we have fields, which is going to just be syntax you have to learn, that inside of our model we have fields, and name is going to be one of those fields. And I can give a better description for this than just name by using double quotes and typing game name, just like that. And that just is going to tell us that this isn't, name is the technical name we're using, and this is a variable that's getting assigned. And we're just going to call it game name. Now if I come down here and I say day equals, I can make an integer, fields.integer, and you can see it fills that in for us, and I can say call this current day. And so these are known as data types. So character is character data, which is numbers and letters and symbols and anything, and integers are whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And then now we're going to have cache, and for cache we'll use a float, and a float is just it's just numbers but with decimal places. And a lot of this is just going to make so much more sense as we just move through making this game. And so we're going to say cache. And so these now are going to be created, the name, this day, and the city, inside a model called OdooTycoon. Now, OdooTycoon's too generic. We're going to have other models in our game as it gets more complex. So let's go ahead and call this OdooTycoon underscore game manager. And likewise with this name, this is like the technical name. We're going to use this name to reference our game manager. So I'm going to, in other parts of our application. So I'm going to type game manager here. So we have this underscore name OdooTycoon.game manager. We changed this to OdooTycoon underscore game manager, and we left everything else pretty much the same in this part of it. And again, if you're brand new to this, it's got to be extremely confusing. Just follow along and see the things we've added, and then we're gonna take it very incremental, really small changes, so we can see the results of what we've just done here. So I can at this point save this. We're done. We can file save, or you can use Control S, which I'll use from now on, and we're ready now to relaunch our Odoo server and see the changes we've made here, and actually go in and verify that we've created these fields to hold our game data, or game manager data. So let's go ahead and stop the execution now, because you're always going to have to stop and restart the Odoo server when you make your changes, no matter what. But in this case, we have another change we need to make, because we need to notify the Odoo framework that we've modified these Python files. Otherwise, it doesn't know we've changed anything, and the application doesn't get updated. Now, we could, and let me go ahead and run this again, we can come up in here and click the upgrade button every time. So we'd make our changes, come in here and hit upgrade, and then we'll see the changes. But we don't want to have to keep coming back here to our to this form to click this upgrade button, because we're going to be working on our game. We don't want to have to come back to the installation page here. So we can come in here to our configuration. I'm going to stop it again. You can come in here to our configurations, and then after our XML port here, add another parameter, -u, and I'm going to say -u OdooTycoon. So you can specify any applications that the Odoo framework needs to update when you launch the server. So this is going to tell the framework we need to update that. We hit OK, and now I can also use the run down here. So I'm going to run again, and let's go ahead and jump here to our apps menu and go to settings, and I can now show you the model inside of the Odoo database. We can come here to technical, and to do this you got to make sure you're in the developer mode. So if you haven't activated the developer mode, you're going to activate the developer mode, and so once it's activated you can come down here, and I didn't mean to click that, that was an accidental click. We're going to come down here to models under database structure models, and we can type in OdooTycoon, and you can see here our model OdooTycoon.game manager and a description for our model. And if we click it, we're going to see there's quite a few fields in here. We got the cache that we made. We also get create date, create UID. There's our day, that's one that we made, so keeping track of the day of our game, Tycoon game. And of course the name, which is the field label is updated to name. So you can see everything worked like it was supposed to. We've created a brand new model to hold the data for our game, the basic data. Obviously this is going to expand. We're just keeping track of our money, what day it is, and the game name. So there's all kinds of models, and as a developer, I'm going to highly encourage you to look through the models, especially for applications you're working on. So if you're working in the inventory application, make sure you look at the models for the inventory application. Like in this case, inventory uses models that are prefaced by stock. If you're working with products, then you're going to want to look at the product models and so forth. So understanding these models, you can see all these are really cryptic and confusing because they're part of the Odoo framework. And so we're not going to take really look at any of these for right now. We will look at product models, we're going to look at customer models and things like that we're going to use for our game. But for right now, we're going to learn how to work with our little simple game manager where we have some money that we can put into cash, and we have a current day that we can increment. So now that we can see our model, we want to have a way where we can go in and actually view the model and see it. Now, one of the things that's important, and we'll look at real quick before we end this lecture, if I come back here to our pie chart, is that we haven't given any specific security credentials on this model. So we've created the model, but we've never given any explicit instructions to the Odoo framework on the access level and the security level for that model. Now, it's throwing an error in here. We'll have to find it. And it's more of a warning, but you can see this warning here. Warning, OdooTycoon version 12. The model OdooTycoon Game Manager has no access rule, considering adding one. And then if I go across, it gives us an example here of what we could add. See how it says, considering adding one, e.g., and then it provides this string. So we're going to actually copy this because this is very useful when you're a new Odoo developer and you don't understand all the syntax. What I'm trying to do is get this course so that you can get results and your understanding of the syntax and all of the confusing parts of the framework will come as you become more experienced. And you can obviously then also use reference materials and things like that to answer your questions. So I'm just copying this because it's given it as an example. Now, it's more important even in Odoo 12 that you do this next step. In previous versions of Odoo, you could still access the models and use them because you were in admin mode. And because you were in admin, logging in as the administrator, it ignored the security. But in Odoo 12, they've locked down these models so you can't access them unless you give some explicit security. So now that I've copied the example, fortunately, they also have given us a file template that we can edit right within the application template. So here in my add-ons and the OdooTycoon project, under security, there's an ir.model.access.csv, and you can just open this up, and they've created one in here for us on the previous model that was before we changed it. And we don't want this one because we've changed it anyway, so we're just going to get rid of their example when they provided in the file and paste in the one that they provided in the terminal here when it didn't start up correctly. Now, without getting too technical, these final switches out here are for create, read, write, delete kind of switches. Whether or not you can do various operations on the model. And so what we want to do is say we want to be able to do all these things. So this is probably access the model, create records in the model, modify records in the model, and delete. And I don't know for sure that that's what these are. I would look them up to be absolutely sure that I know the order of these and what they refer to. But basically by setting them all to ones, we're saying that we want whoever the user is any user, this base user, anyone who actually has a legitimate logon and password to this Odoo database is going to be able to do any operation on this model. Now, of course, you would change that, and as the game progresses, if we start doing anything where it's a game for multiple people, multiple players, and things like that, where you'd actually need security of some kind, this would get a lot more complex as to what these permissions might be on the game manager, depending upon who's playing. But for right now, this is perfectly fine, and this will let us have complete access to the model. And so with that said, I'm going to save this file. And right now, Odoo's not going to see this because it's actually commented out in the manifest. So we need to go to the manifest, open it up, and come down here. And you'll see that there's a data tag, I guess I'll use that word right now, and it's specifying in a list here all the files that the Odoo framework should look at and include in the project. And you can see that we have a views.xml and a templates.xml. These are not commented out. As I told you earlier, these are comments, these little pound signs, and so the interpreter, the Python interpreter, just ignores them. Well, I'm going to get rid of that comment. So now when the Odoo framework starts up, it is going to pick up this file, and then it's going to use this record that we put in to make sure that any user of this database that's been authenticated and logged in correctly will have access to the model we created. So let me Control S to save, and rather than stopping and starting again using these, you can come down here and just use the rerun or Control F5, and this will stop it and restart it. So this is usually the button I'll use once I'm not changing and editing configurations and things like that. So now if I do something, I guess I should go OdooTycoon. Actually, I can do this. Yeah, I can show you exactly what it did. So if I come in here to OdooTycoon and I click on access rights, you'll see this right here. And so that's what got created. This was blank before I added the line here to the ir.model.access.csv. And so, of course, you could add this stuff in manually, like you could edit and add these in, but that's not what you want to do when you build applications. You want to put those access rules inside your application, so then when you create a new database, you're not going in here and changing things in models and so forth. So I'm going to end the lecture here, and in the next lecture we're going to actually create a view so you can see the model that we created, add records, delete records, and then you'll see just here in just less than a half hour, like 2 short lectures, how quickly you can create models and have full access to all the standard CRUD features like create, read, update, delete. If you're a Python application programmer and you've built business applications before, you're really going to appreciate the Odoo framework for how much functionality it gives you with just so few lines of code. So look forward to seeing you in the next lecture.